Well, hello everybody. Thanks for watching. Today's topic, the adventures of buying vinyl at a Vromans Bookstore. Now, number one, I didn't even know Vromans carried vinyl, but I guess I should have, just presumed this, but I haven't been in a Vromans Bookstore in forever. So, it happened to be that I did go to a Vromans Bookstore just this past week. And I was surprised to see a vinyl bin. Not large, but, some good amount of vinyl to flip through. So I said, let me have a look at this, right? Wasn't in there to buy albums, but now that I see them, maybe I'm going to buy an album. And I start flipping through the vinyls. What a great selection they had. I was blown away. Frankly, totally surprised at the amount of albums from genres that I thought I wouldn't see. I figured I'm going to see, whatever. I don't know, Tanya Swain and Taylor Swift and whatever the hell else. Faith Hill, bookstore music. But what did I see? Punk rockers, old 70s classic rock, blowing me away. These are right in my wheelhouse, these albums. Misfits, they had the debut album of A Social Distortion. Ramones, Minor Threat they had quite a few. Gang of Four, I think, was there. Not that they're punk, but they were, all in that era of music that I just didn't think I would find at Vromans. So, man, I found myself having to actually cut back before I spent $150 on records, because some of these records, Sonic Youth, they had. Some of these albums I've bought already online and paid for shipping. And I was like, man, look at this. This is what I paid online for this album, plus $10 for shipping. So now, look, who knew I could just come to my local Vromans and pick up vinyl? So what did I do? I picked up vinyl. Okay, I bought 3 albums and walked away from another 4 or 5 that I wanted. What were the 3 albums I bought? One, I bought T-Rex Slider, which we'll talk a little bit more in an instant. I bought Culture, Reggae, Culture. Who knew they would be there? I never see Culture vinyl anywhere. And what else did I buy? The Ramones debut album repress put out. Now, these albums, like I said, some of them that they were offering, I could have bought online, but again, I pay shipping, so if I can avoid $10, $10 shipping, I will. And others of these, they probably send to my local record stores that I'm used to going to, but the people buy them before I even get there, so I never get to see them. So for all I know, they had the Ramones debut. I'm sure they did, and so on. But by the time I get there, somebody else has already bought them, because they're a small record store. They only bought, a couple of copies to have in their bin. So anyway, I bought those albums, and that's where my adventure began. Let me begin with that T-Rex album, right? T-Rex Slider. I didn't even know the title of it, but I knew this was a classic album that I wanted. I knew the album cover, the face with the looks like a army helmet, combat helmet, and the hair, and just big bold letters, T-Rex. I knew this is a classic album, and I knew I got to get my hands on it at some point, but I never see it in the used bins. And even then, if I found it in a used bin, I'll bet it's $25, $30, and then it's used, right? This was a repress. I don't recall if it was a remix. How come I don't recall? How come I can't tell you? Because I played it. And now I knew, like I said, I knew this was a classic album that I should have in my collection. I know they're the glam rock kings. T-Rex Bolin is like uh, birthing glam rock right about the same time young David Bowie is bursting out with Ziggy Stardust and so on. And that whole glam movement is getting started. And possibly being launched by Bolin and T-Rex, who some will argue that's what they did. But I never heard that album, right? Never had it. So I brought it home. I'm listening to it. Blew me away. No wonder it's a classic. Beautiful soundstage on the album. Wonderful production. What a great album. Guitars, songs, melodies, harmonies, outer space vision, and again, those beautiful guitars. And I was like, oh man, I'm so glad I got this album. Side 2, 3 songs in, big skip. I don't know the album well enough to know what song it was, but yeah, side 2 and about halfway, 3/4 of the way down. A skip. Oh no, disaster, right? So I'll clean it because I had that happen with a Rolling Stones album that had a skip in it, and I cleaned it and I cleaned it out. So I tried a couple times, couldn't get rid of it. Beautiful album, great album. I want this album. I want it in my collection, but I can't have this. I can't pay full price for a brand new product that's got a skip in it like that, right? Plus 2, I saw a copy of it. They had 2 copies of that one. Leave it to me to grab the one with the frickin' skip in it straight from the factory. So I just thought I'll return it, So that's what happened with album number 1. Album number 2 that I got, Culture, Good Things, reggae, early 80s reggae. When I first started listening to reggae and getting into it, roots rocker style right here. I love the songs of Culture. I was listening to the Sunday reggae program that I was listening to on Sunday afternoons. They were playing these guys, and I got into them quickly. The characteristic voice. They've got great rhythm, great reggae tunes, great lyrics, brass section that they're throwing in, and again, roots rocker style that I want. I never see this album. I never see it used, and I never see it brand new. Boom, there it was. I grabbed it. Now, here's another crazy thing about this. I'm going to sidetrack for a second. Bear with me. There's something in the vinyl, used vinyl world anyway, that I've noticed is that you don't see a lot of black artists in the used bins like you do see the old 70s and the old 80s new wave stuff. And I mean black artists like soul artists and reggae artists. You don't see a lot of that. And when you do see it, it's priced below what they're charging over there in the white rock and roll section of albums. I always thought that was, I wonder why. I was glad, I'd gladly pay $5 less, right? Same thing happened here with this new album. All the other albums that were in that bin I was looking at were 25, nothing less, 23, I think. 23, 25, 29, 35. They're all in that range. This, a good $5 below. $19. It was below 20. I could not get this thing in my hands fast enough. Once again, why is this reggae artist priced less? I don't know. Is it the record company? I don't know, but it always seems a little fishy to me. Is it less desirable? Either way, it's super desirable to me. So I'm glad that I get the on sale price. So $19, I got this Culture album. So freaking good. Youth Man Move is on here, which is my favorite cut on the album. I think that's side 2, first cut on side 2. Youth Man Move. What else is on here? Psalm of Bob Marley is on here, which is another great cut. These are just to, drop those couple on you. Cousin Rude Boy. These were songs I knew coming into the album, but I never owned it. But I knew those songs from hearing them played, and I jumped on this album, and the whole thing is good. And a few assorted dubs in here. So it's got originals plus dubs of the originals, about 3 or 4 dubs. Very good album. Very solid. $20, no shipping, in my hand quickly, plays perfectly, fantastic. And less than a $20 bill, that was great. The other album I got, final album I got that day, right? I bought 3. I picked up Ramones' debut repress. What does the hype sticker say on there? Hey ho, let's go. It's a repress. It's 180 grams. So those of us who are into collecting vinyl, we love that big, heavy vinyl. The First Blast of Punk Rock is a debut album. Believe it or not, as much as I love the Ramones and as much as I love punk rock, I only had one album of theirs, their second album. This one, what is it? Something Leaving Home or Run From Home, something like that, their second album. But I didn't have their debut. Here it is, right? So it's a remastered audio. So right on. This album also threw it on the turntable, played super clean, great, like a brand new album should. And just, again, the sound stage and the guitars are over here and they're moving back and forth. The separation, the production value, great. Of course, the songs, classic, great. We grew up with that stuff, so we love it. And I'm very happy with this Ramones album. Got the repress, got the re-release, debut album. Again, didn't have to pay for shipping. But I had to return an album, right? I had to return that T-Rex, and I thought, I'm going to go get a new copy of the T-Rex album. So I go. Next day, said, I'm not going to wait. I go back the next day. Gone. Somebody already hit that bin. I thought it was going to be my secret reggae, secret stash, secret punk rock vinyl spot, because what punk rockers go to Vromans to buy albums, right? I thought I was the only guy in the world who knew that that's where you could find that music, and I was going to it was going to be my private picking spot. Well, when I went back, somebody else picked it. Remember how I said, like, I walked away and left 4 or 5 albums? Something like 3 of those were gone, including my Mark Bolan T-Rex album that I had my eyes on that I was going to exchange. I don't know if that one has a defect, like mine did, but somebody got that one. So I had to settle for the other T-Rex. They had another T-Rex album, right? So I buy it, and it's another one of those first albums. What the heck is it called? I forget, but it came out in 1970. I think it was the first time they used the name T-Rex. They used to be Tyrannosaurus Rex, which I didn't know this because I knew T-Rex, I knew of them. And I knew a couple of songs from the radio, right? But I wasn't a huge fan, so I didn't know all kinds of trivia about the band. And I should have known, because it would have saved me a little bit of trouble. Because apparently what I didn't know is they used to be called Tyrannosaurus Rex. And it was a guitar and bongo guy. And they were straight out of hippie flower power, peace and love, beatnik bongo music, folk music, which, forget about it. I don't want it. Well, that was the album that they did have of T-Rex, so I grabbed it. I said second best. I heard one album, which was fantastic. I'll just buy that later online. Now I know it's good. I'll just buy it. And the other one, I said, I'll grab this one. And I bring it home and I listen to it. And it's that flower power crap. It's that folk music, which again, that doesn't appeal to me at all. So it sucked as far as I'm concerned. I know it's on all those top T-Rex albums ranked, I know it's up there like in the second top 2 or 3, and it's historical, and it's actually their transition album, hippie commune to glam rockers in outer space. That's kind of the transition album. And if you're a serious T-Rex collector, that's probably why you might want that album in your collection. But I want to listen to the albums I have, and I want to enjoy listening to them, and that wasn't going to happen with that album. So I'm back to Vromans again to return that album, right? I got to go back. And so I go back, and there was one album that I had my eye on from my first day that I was there. If you recall, I said I had to leave 4 or 5 albums behind. I was in my head. They had a few Misfits albums. And this one that I grabbed, and I was like, I almost wanted to get the Misfits because I never seen Misfits in the bins either. I never see Misfits in the used or in the record store new. They probably get them again. Like I said, I'll give my record store credit for picking them up, those albums, but I'll bet they only get a few copies and then they're gone. So I was like, should I get these Misfits? But I didn't. And I went for this album instead. And I'm so glad I did. This is what I picked up. In my exchange for that lousy T-Rex, I still went for Old Days. Van Morrison, Astro Weeks. Another classic that you must have in your collection. But I didn't have in my collection yet because I hadn't seen it in the used bins yet. I've been waiting for this to pop up in the used. Well, here it was, brand new, reissue, grabbed it. Brought it home, listened to it, thankfully, clean, both sides very good, like an album, a new album should be out of the paper. And speaking of paper, in a very nice poly-lined sleeve, which I love. And just such a great album. You guys who know Van Morrison and know Astro Weeks and you know the history of rock and roll, you know how good that album is. I mean, shit, people have written term papers on it, you know, treatises and theses and so on based on Astro Weeks. And now I had it. And now I was listening to it from end to end. There's a reason why this is such a revered album. Again, I was familiar with some cuts from hearing them here and there, but never as a whole on an album in my pad on my system. And there it was. So I was very happy to have brought that. And that was the end of my numerous trips of Vromans trying to satisfy that money I spent on that vinyl and end up with an LP that I was happy with. Number one, starting to close out now, final points is that thanks a lot, Vromans, for accepting my returns. No questions asked, no hassle. I didn't have to explain myself. I just said, you know, I want to return this album in exchange for another album. No problem. In and out. Very good. So credit given to Vromans. Credit given to Vromans again for having these records in the first place, because I still have you in the back of my mind for a spot whenever I'm up there. I'm going to stop in and have a look through that bin because, yeah, that's a hidden little gem of albums there. Although it's me and somebody else, because somebody else went there and snagged all those other albums. Maybe I'll go up there and get those Misfits albums next paycheck. But either way, that's what happened with Vromans. And a final close out that thought. Well, what about my T-Rex album? I loved Slider so much, I went online and I bought a copy of Slider online. So it's going to come to me. It's going to arrive like next week, I think. I had to wait a little long so I can get free shipping. But it's going to come to me, and I know it's going to be a great album that I'm just going to love. Oh, and on top of that, it worked out in the end, silver lining, because on top of that, I went online and bought this T-Rex Slider album. Same price, more or less, maybe $1 off here or there. Clear vinyl. And you know me, I'm hot for those colored vinyls or clear vinyls or whatever kind of special gimmick you're going to give me. So I'm very happy because I got a clear vinyl T-Rex coming to me. So that's coming next week. Thanks everybody for bearing with my long story. I thought this was going to be a quickie because I'm just going to show a couple albums and then get out of here. But thank you, those of you who stood with me and indulged my stories about going back and forth adventures with Vromans. All right. See you later. We're supposed to have rain after a few days. We just had some rain here, so the world is nice and clean here, and the birds have something to drink. I'm very happy for those of you who come and watch my videos and stick all the way through. Thank you very much. Peace. See you next time.